Hello and welcome. My name is Gemstone, and today we are back in Our Life Beginning and Always. We're gonna continue right from where we left off, and let's just jump straight back into the story. Alrighty, so last time we did fireflies, but we're gonna continue with our moments. So this is going through the first summer with our friend Cove. I'm going to do my best to remember the voices, but we'll see how it goes. So for starters, what do I want to save till last? If I had known that if I had remembered rather, that I got to do all of them, I probably would have saved fireflies for last. But I think maybe we'll save grown up for last, or long day. But I think we're gonna start with sandcastle. Oh, these colors are so beautiful. This art is amazing. Alrighty. So, Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him, and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon. Not with his cast. The waves washed a single shell to shore, glittering and blue, another reminder of the places he couldn't go. From what you'd heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. The possibilities of what he might get up to made you anxious. You thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and dad. But now he was here, with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go in the sea. This town wasn't bad. It had all your favorite things in it. But sitting there, on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye, quietly, and he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in.
The water?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to do it soon.
Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough.
It's so pretty, the ocean.
And huge. There could be anything out there. Like mermaids.
I'm fine here on land.
Alright. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. Aw. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle?
Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening.
Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before.
It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away.
Well, how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him.
I'll play too. I love making sand stuff.
Okay.
He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded.
I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started.
Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared.
That's all, kind of. You can do anything now. Like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine is gonna be a real castle.
Cool. This is gonna be a house.
Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make... Ooh, a castle. You decided to build a fancy castle. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you'd built. It seems you got done so fast because they'd already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of the shells, but there were still options. The first thing you reached for was a red bottle cap, blue seashell, green piece of sea glass. Ooh. Not the bottle cap. I do really like blue, but I also like glass. Let's go with glass. It was the best fit for your castle, you decided. It was see-through and sparkly, so you tucked it away somewhere secure inside, barely poking out to make sure it didn't get lost. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. I think I'm not gonna look. I'm gonna wait until they reveal it. You instead watched some clouds go by. The silence was then broken. What's on the top of yours, Shiloh? You peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney.
Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke.
Neat.
It's good. That's smart.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. You really know a lot about this.
Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was that for the current topic.
Gemstone, can I see what you did?
Sure. He scooted just a bit nearer and began surveying your work. The castle you'd built was pretty impressive, all things considered. It had archways, tall walls, and even a little moat circling it. You would probably feel safe living there. Maybe your moms were the queens. Shiloh quickly decided to jump in the new conversation.
Hey Gemstone, what did you do? I made a castle.
Shiloh didn't look so happy anymore.
You both built castles?
They are called sandcastles. Yeah.
Aw, that's neat how you guys match. It's too bad we didn't all do it. Next time we should.
Wouldn't that be boring? If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special. Aw, he's trying to help.
Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff.
People too. My dad always says how everybody is their own man, a real individual.
I don't think I'm very special.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head.
I'm not different.
A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off again. Again, there was a moment of silence. Whoops. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Gemstone? You blinked, not expecting the question. You thought hard.
I wasn't there. They didn't tell me.
I just remembered what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh, well, I was there.
I don't think my mom has met your dad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Gemstone's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him, though giving people their own turn to say the things they want is important too. Ooh. I like making sure that everyone gets a chance to be in the conversation, but I don't want to interrupt Cove's story either. I guess he kind of interrupted Shiloh. See, this decision is a little bit hard for me because I have sisters who are very talkative, both of them, and I'm more of the silent type, but then also whenever we have friends and stuff, whenever we had friends when we were younger, I wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance in the conversation. But also, I have a thing about interruptions, so... Ooh. Also, these are my colors, the backgrounds of these, gold and blue. This game is very, like, aesthetically matching my sensibilities. I like it.
I think Shiloh wants to talk too.
Huh?
We were talking, just not right now. I'm talking to you. He can listen.
Oh. Shiloh's expression barely flicked at the words. He still looked put off. Cove continued like the interruption hadn't happened. He was determined to tell the tale.
When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us. Only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out, because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that.
His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that.
Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too, and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand, then went over to the front of your house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said. I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time.
Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more.
Is that it?
Cove's brow wrinkled, like he didn't understand why you were surprised.
Huh? That's all that happened.
Yeah, there was nothing really happened, but as I was told last time, apparently Cove is canonically autistic, so I get that.
Thanks for telling me. You're welcome.
Even if not much happened, you weren't going to complain about knowing the story. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing.
Why'd you bring that up anyway?
There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulders.
Well,
I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved here. Dad showed me the beach first, before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brow furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hand through the sand.
I get it.
You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach, and was instead hoping Cove might be. Well, he also named his son Cove, so I think he was probably a little excited about the beach. But the line of conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh fidgeted uncomfortably in the sand. Oh, Shiloh fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what this might be about.
Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening?
Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again.
I don't know, I guess.
Okay. It's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw. But it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't just look sad. He seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got an answer.
Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses. Nobody's named Cove. It was probably just your dad bugging Gemstone's family some more because you don't have anyone else who will ever play with you.
Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to even mention. It hadn't seemed like the kind of thing he'd get upset about. Though, you hadn't ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh.
I'm sorry.
Me too. I was just wondering.
Hey, let's build another sandcastle. This day is gonna be over soon. Ah, Gemstone, you're right. The sun is going down so fast.
You all went back to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness had clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least you'd tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it had helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to you and Cove wavered. Oh, when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head back to your own houses. You followed him as he made his way out of the sand. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near-perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up and thinking about something.
What are you thinking about?
The prospect of asking made you nervous, but you did anyway.
Hey, is everything, okay?
Oh,
I was just wondering.
Cove fell silent again for a few more seconds, then sighed.
Why'd Shiloh act like that? When I said he was all red a lot.
He gets embarrassed.
Embarrassed? But I didn't say anything that bad.
It might have upset him anyway?
I guess
I can get it. Why he would do that. Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey, Gemstone, was Shiloh telling the truth?
Huh?
His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. Does my dad make you hang out with me? I know he talks to your moms about that a lot. An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest at the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it. You knew you did. But you couldn't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know what happened when you met Mr. Holden.
Nobody's making me spend time with you.
Cove's shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had tensed up.
That's what I thought too. Anyways, I didn't think you were pretending. I just wanted to make sure it was okay, is all.
Thanks.
Thanks for telling me. Your throat tightened. It was hard to meet Cove's earnest gaze again. Keeping secrets was hard. I'm not keeping a secret. I do like hanging out with him. Yeah, they hang out a lot and he asked me to, but I didn't do it because of that. Yeah. Anyway. By now, the two of you were on the sidewalk near your houses. It was time to part ways. Yawn, sorry. Not a huge fan of hugs. Nudge Cove's shoulder? Not a huge fan of touching either. You said goodbye. Bye. See you tomorrow. Cove smiled and nodded firmly. Bye, Gemstone. You made your way to your house, crossing the driveway to get to the front door. When you looked back, you saw Cove making his way back home too. As if he felt your eyes on him, he turned around. He waved. You did too. You still felt a little unsure with what you were supposed to do about the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad, or something you shouldn't. You had no idea how Cove would take it either. It would be terrible if it made him feel bad. What if he didn't want to play with you anymore? You might change your mind sometime. There was always tomorrow after all. But for now, it was definitely something that you'd keep to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. See, that's the thing though, we refused his offer. Like, he did offer, but we refused it, and we didn't hang out because he asked us to. We actually wanted to hang out with him. So, you know. Well, I'm making my own canon, as usual. Let's go shopping. Come back before it gets dark, alright, sport? The familiar voice drifted across the street, the new voice that I just made up for him, drew across the street and drew your attention away from the snail you'd been watching inch slowly across the pavement. Cove waited in front of his dad, pushing his green hair back off his face from where the breeze was blowing over his glasses. He looked to be paying only a mild amount of attention as he was being handed a few slips of green paper. A few slips of green paper. It reminded you of when you'd first met Mr. Holden, although he's probably not paying Cove to be friends with himself. Cove's dad seemed to feel your gaze somehow, or maybe you made a noise, because a second later his eyes were on you. He waved you over with a smile. He looked happy to see you, but you still felt a little weird for getting caught. You gotta learn how to be more sneaky. Hello, Potato, welcome! Heck yeah, we groovin'. Yippee, indeed. You brushed your hands together to free them of sand, then jogged over to join the two, smiling at Cove first, and then his dad. Gemstone, hi.
How's it going?
Good to see you again. What excitement are you up to today, Gemstone? Nothing. You toed the pavement in front of you. It would be nice to tell them about the snail you found, but you didn't know if they liked snails. After you finished answering the question, Mr. Holden's attention returned to Cove, who was preoccupied with folding the bills he had into a tiny rectangle. But the fact that his dad made the offer at all might still have an effect on how Cove sees the relationship. Something to explore in another playthrough. That is a good point. Nintendiate. I'm trying to think of like a way to shorten the name. Nin? Do you have any short forms that you prefer, or do you prefer the whole name? I just want to make sure I'm not like miscalling you.
Sounds fun. It does? You weren't sure about that. You know, Cove was about to hit the stores by the beach. Why don't you go with him? You gave a ready nod, turning to squint in the direction of the stores like you could see the goods they had to offer all the way from where you stood. Ninten plus idiot is where the name comes from. Ninten works if it's too odd to say. It's alright to say. I just wasn't sure if you had something shorter that you prefer. We talking about how Papa Cove offered MC money? Yeah. Yeah, we had an option to tell him in the last chapter, but we didn't.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Great. I'm sure you guys will have loads of fun. Gasp, how could you, Jim? I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Mr. Holden reached into his pocket and pulled out a leather wallet filled with money. You found it odd, since your moms only ever seemed to have cards in theirs. Here. He leaned in to pass a crisp 10 to Cove, giving him a wink and a whisper. Get something for your friend, too.
Sure.
Good kid.
That's my boy. Aw. Cove's dad ruffled his son's hair as he was straightening back up, the bill in his hand still held out towards the green-haired boy. Take care. Cove accepted the bill after a second and slipped it into his pocket. Then, with one last nod to his dad, he turned and started walking. You followed after him, intrigued at the possibilities this outing might bring. Shopping, shopping. Cove strayed towards the gentle tide, creeping up the sand, and you fell into place beside him. It was a nice day. The sun was shining, and there weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. You took in a deep breath, enjoying the scent of salt and ocean air. When you looked at Cove, he was dragging his feet through the sand a little, and you slowed down to wait for him. His eyes searched the ground intently. We know what he's after. I don't feel the need to ask why. Searching the sand in front of you as you walked, you kept an eye out for any cool shells you might find that you could add to your collection. The comforting sound of the waves filled the silence with pleasant white noise, and you played a little game with yourself as you walked along, getting as close to the water as possible without getting wet. It resulted in you having to run up the sand quickly when a wave rushed in more than a few times, and although Cove threw a few glances your way, he didn't say a word.
What did you want to go to the shops for?
I need a new sand pail.
Yeah? What happened to your old one?
Cove narrowed his eyes, seeming to think deeply for a second.
Whoa.
It disappeared.
What? Really?
Cove ducked his head down, lacing his fingers behind his back. It didn't seem like he was going to continue, so you nudged his arm.
How did that happen?
Well... Cove opened his mouth, then shut it again, considering.
I took it to the beach one day.
Uh-huh.
When I got home, it wasn't anywhere. You left it there? Nope, it wasn't at the beach when I went back. Then you lost it. It disappeared.
So...
What about you? What do you do out here?
I like looking at fish. Or nothing. I just come here for fun.
I like looking at fish. They don't like me, so they always swim away if I get close. But they're pretty before that. Cool. Starfish are fun. They aren't going anywhere, even if you touch them.
A small laugh escaped you.
That's true.
Once you reached the shopping area, the noise level grew exponentially. No longer just waves and footsteps, but the chatter of people enjoying the lovely summer day, the call of birds trying to find bits of food left behind, and lots of salespeople trying to get attention. You sniffed the air as you walked beside Cove. You could still smell the ocean, but there were other scents now too. Pizza, pretzels, hot donuts. It was nice. The energy surrounding the area seemed to fill you, and there was a bounce in your step as you began looking at all the familiar sights. There were so many things to do, you didn't know where to begin. You looked at Cove, hoping he was just as excited as you were. He's not going to be. Cove was glancing from one side of the street to the other, with a look in his aquamarine eyes that you couldn't quite work out. What's that? Cove pointed to a large crowd of people gathered near a few tables with large, colorful umbrellas blooming from their middles. You couldn't see past the adults who were blocking the way, but you knew there must be something worth seeing. Without another word, the two of you hurried over to see what all the commotion was about. It's Alexander! Feast your eyes on the amazing Alexander! In the center of the crowd was a man with a tall hat and a funny green coat that had 3 long tails. There was a little table next to him, with a cloth hanging over it that read, "The Amazing Alexander," in glittery golden script. Why tell people of his name if it's already on a sign? Cove hummed with understanding, then turned to walk away just as the amazing Alexander began shuffling a deck of cards. You bit your lip, reluctantly starting to follow after Cove again. You continued looking over your shoulder, however, wanting to see as much as you could before you got too far away. Hey! Not watching where you were going proved a bad idea, as you bumped right into Cove. Oh, sorry. Did you want to stay or something? If that's okay. He briefly lifted his arms up off his sides before returning them to place. You could have said so. With that, it began. The magic man pulled out one card from the deck, showing it to the curious onlookers. It was a 4 of diamonds. Watch closely! You did, squeezing through a few of the adult onlookers to get a better view. Suddenly, the man snapped his fingers, and the card just disappeared. Whoa! The amazing Alexander, who had earned his title, turned his head and looked directly at you. He reached out with a kind smile. What's this behind your ear? Me. Let's be into it a little bit. When I was younger, I was a bit more like social, I guess. Tell me! This had to be going somewhere, and you needed to find out. He smelled like popcorn and candy when he stepped closer. It was great. You felt a tug, and then he pulled the 4 of diamonds out from behind your ear. What? You knew that it couldn't really have come from your ear, but you still didn't get how he'd done it. There was light applause from the crowd, and the man gave a deep bow. This is for you. The magician plucked a pair of balloons from a clump of them tied down to his table. Both were in the shape of a dolphin instead of being a normal circle. And one for your friend too. Thank you for being my assistant. They're so silly. Yeah. Wow! Now you were really grateful he chose you. After that, he went to someone else in the crowd. Pick a card! Any card! My uncle does that every time he visits. Not the balloons, the stuff with cards. Cove spoke plainly while reaching over to take the dolphin that had been designated for him. At least you had a fun time. You saw a magic trick and you got a great balloon. That was more than enough to make it a worthwhile event. You thought that if you could find a card to practice with, maybe you could make it disappear too. The crowd started to clear some, and you noticed to the sides there was a whole rack of brightly colored kaleidoscopes on display. I will make these jelly beans disappear. Yeah, I bet I could pull off that trick. Eats them. Kabam! In a second! Where did they go? Wow. That'll be $9.99. Oh, great trick, potato. What do you think? Should we pick up a kaleidoscope? Or walk past the toys? Probably walk past the toys. You briefly look over the rack of toys, thinking that they could be interesting to look at, I can speak, but you didn't really feel in the mood at the moment. Cove picked up one of the kaleidoscopes and looked through, twisting the tube at the end. After a second, he set it back on the rack, moving to the other side of the stall. He went under the awning, careful of his own floating dolphin, and you joined him.
Are you having fun?
He nodded, and you smiled back at him, happy to hear it. When Cove moved towards some stalls nearby, you followed beside him. Wahaha! Little guys! While Cove looked at sand bales, you were drawn to a table with colorful keychains laid out on it. I do love keychains. They were sewn in the shapes of sea creatures, and there was a plaque that read "Handmade" standing proudly in front. Oh, heck yeah! There were lots of different types. You saw a dolphin, a shark, a crab, a turtle. Oh, okay, when I was younger I did have a thing for dolphins, but now I like turtles more. What should I go with? Tormdal? Tormdal it is. Your hand stopped on the sleeping turtle, just barely poking its head out of the shell. It had flecks of metallic green on his back that caught the sunlight when you picked it up. Okay, yeah, that would be something I would reach for. I tend to go with Shork. Fair. It's also very cute. And it's a really nice shade of brown. But I thought these might have been metallic and I was like, I would definitely go for that, so it's a perfect choice. You remembered the turtles you had seen in a movie. You had been mesmerized by the way they gently glided through the water. You were instantly enamored. Checking the price though, your heart fell. $6. You didn't know much about money, but you thought that was a lot to spend on one thing. Mood, oh my goodness. Alright. You rarely had more than a $5 bill to your name.
Is that what you want? Huh? Oh. It's $6. I didn't bring any money.
Alright.
It's fine. You don't have to.
Cove didn't mind that. He took the keychain from your hands, and that was that. He was holding a small yellow bucket for himself too.
I was always gonna get you something. I already got the money for it.
You were a little nervous, but happy with your purchase nonetheless. It was nice of Cove's dad to let Cove buy something for you too. After Cove paid, the two of you stepped out of the store side by side, your balloon dolphins knocking together and spiraling around in the air. You watched Cove hold up his new pail to his face, examining it thoroughly.
Hey, Cove? Yeah? Thanks for getting me it. It's alright. It wasn't clear if he really knew how much you appreciated it. What? You were going to thank him for the keychain, but instead just shook your head, smiling. Cove raised an eyebrow, but didn't push the issue. He looked further down the street, where different food carts were lined up. He rested his non-cast arm over his stomach, and just as he did, yours let out a light growl. You hadn't eaten since breakfast, and after all of this wandering around, you were definitely ready for some lunch. Let's get some food. Yeah. You two wandered around a short while, looking at all the delicacies that were available. Everything looked delicious, and as the different smells, both sweet and salty, wafted over to you, your stomach growled even louder. After passing up hot dogs, snow cones, ice cream, and pizza, you both agreed on pretzels. Oh yeah, pretzels! Cove got something sweet and cinnamony, and you... Oh... Ooh. Both is good, but if I was hungry, Suffer? Yeah, I want all of them. Got the same. You licked your lips hungrily as the vendor handed your pretzel over, ready to take a big bite. Your moms didn't like you to eat too much sugar, but this was a special occasion. What kind of kids pass up hot dogs and pizza? That was half your diet when you were little. Yeah, I mean, it would have been difficult, but if there was cinnamon pretzels, I mean... A little cup of icing. A little cup of icing? Look, the little cup of icing looked too delicious to pass on. Ah, cinnamon sugar pretzel dipped in icing. That sounds so good. Cinnamon pretzels are the things. Yeah. Yeah, like the big, soft, warm pretzels. Oh, that would be so good. Yeah, when I was a kid, even liking like pizza and hot dogs and stuff, I probably would have gone with something sweet. My whole family has sweet teeth. And they make me feel like my lungs are just becoming cinnamon. Ah. Yeah, cinnamon is, like, it depends how much cinnamon is on it. It can be so good if it's just the right amount, but if it's too much, it's a little intense. You found an empty table close enough to the beach that the grit of the sand made terrible noises when you dragged the chairs to sit down. Oh my goodness, I know exactly that sound. These balloons are gonna make it hard to eat. Cove placed his bucket on the table as he stared at his still balled up hand that was wrapped around the string. Tie it to the bucket. You opened your mouth to agree before an idea hit you. I know. After carefully placing your pretzel somewhere it wouldn't get sandy, you tugged the balloon dolphin out of Cove's hand and tied it in a delicate bow around his wrist.
Oh.
Cove bounced his arm up and down in place, testing the stability of your knot. After watching his balloon jostle around but remain attached, he smiled, satisfied. Could you help me too? I can't tie it to my own wrist. He repeated the ritual. Cove struggled somewhat with the cast restricting his fingers on one hand, and a string already tangled around the other. Got it. The two of you spent a moment admiring your handiwork, both hands now free to allow easy munching on your pretzels. Ah, heck yeah. You bit into the doughy treat, savoring the taste on your tongue with a smile as you looked out over the ocean. Ah. Munch, munch, minch. After a time you finished your pretzel, you were done before Cove. It was boring not having anything to do. That's a mood. You pulled on the string of your balloon to bring it down to your level. Then you held the dolphin in your hands.
manipulating it to make it look like it was jumping through the air. As you turned to face towards the beach, it almost looked like it was swimming in the waves, like a real dolphin. Oh, yeah. A laugh came from your side. When you glanced back at Cove, he had left the remaining parts of his pretzel on the wrapper, and he was gripping his dolphin too. Ooh, we get to pick a name and a story. Merryweather, the Prince, Cherry and Alien, Splash, they star in movies. Mine's name is Sam, they're just a regular dolphin.
Mine's name is Splash. They star in movies. Their trainers use fish and treats to help them perform tricks. They're the most famous dolphins in the world.
You sighed, wishing you could star in a movie with a real-life dolphin. This is me as a kid. How did they get me perfect?
What's yours?
Cove considered this question, placing the balloon against the table and resting his free arm across it in contemplation. Uh-oh, don't let it pop. Oh no, we're about to lose it.
It's...
With a loud pop, the dolphin exploded into ribbons.
Oh! Oh no!
Oh.
Ah!
Rats, I wish there was a back button. Aww. Something about sitting in shock for a moment.
Gemstone, it...
You offered to give Cove your balloon. You looked at Cove, then up to your balloon, bobbing gently in the air above you, as someone with younger siblings. Yeah, like...
You can have mine.
That was better than letting him cry more. Cove sniffled, glancing up at the balloon, then back at you.
No, it's yours. I don't want to take it from you. It's okay, really.
Cove shook his head. Even though it wasn't your fault, you felt bad. Still, the offer seemed to lift Cove's spirits, and that was good. The passing of Cove's balloon was the last major event of your adventure. Aww. In the end, the two of you headed back late that afternoon. You separated on the beach, and while Cove went straight home with his brand new sandpail in hand, you decided to sit for a while. You watched the waves and the sunset, fiddling with your new keychain. Another summer day was drawing to a close. It had been a good one, except for the sad final note. Oh man, what a classic adventure. Oh, these all seem so cool. Alright, grown up or long day? I feel like that would be a good one to go to before we move on to the older one, so let's go long day. It was another scorching summer day. The kind where no sooner had you finished one cup of water, you were already filling it up again. Everyone else had something on, so that afternoon it was just you and Shiloh. This didn't happen much, especially since Cove had arrived. Without Lizzie around, Shiloh looked to you for all the answers. It made you feel... Well, I was kind of like the, as an older sister, as an older friend most of the time, pleased. I liked to be the motherly figure, babysitter kind of one, so. You might not be in the double digits like your sister, but he was only 7. Being the oldest and getting to be the leader was a nice change of pace. You drained yet another drink and frowned at the empty vessel. Your thirst was gone, but you still craved something icy cold and refreshing. Something sweet. Something like a slushie? Aww. A popsicle. That's nice and refreshing. You wanted something fruity and brightly colored. There was nothing like that to be found at home. You knew that without needing to look. Your moms didn't keep sweets in the house. That is not how my childhood was. As I said, sweet teeth family. Outside, there were plenty of places where such goodies could be obtained, but they were shops and demanded payment in exchange for their products. You sighed. I probably wouldn't be able to, well, yeah, no. As much as you really wanted that treat, it wasn't going to happen.
What's wrong? I want a popsicle.
Shiloh, who had been draped over the sofa, perked up.
Yeah.
That sounds good. We don't have any here, and I don't have any money. Oh, let me check if I have any.
Shiloh rummaged in his backpack and proudly produced an assortment of coins, plus one stray button. You set the button aside and counted the coins in neat piles. Just over $1. You had announced this to Shiloh. He had almost certainly come to the same conclusion, but he'd been watching you expectantly.
It's a start.
Shiloh beamed at you. There's always hope. Check the couches.
We'll need to find some more. Okay.
The two of you lifted couch cushions, stuck tiny hands down deep crevices in the sofa and under furniture, and scoured the back of drawers. Most of what you found was useless or gross. Bent paper clips, fluffy wisps of dust, or sandy crumbs. But every so often, one of you would strike silver or bronze and add it to the growing pile of coins. Dusty and disheveled from checking every room and squinting into every tiny nook, the two of you finished pooling your finds. Shiloh held his breath as he counted the coins once again.
$2.53 and 2 buttons.
You didn't know when the second button had decided to join the party, but you were too pleased with your successful haul to throw it out.
Is that enough?
You figured he knew the answer, but you appreciated him recognizing your authority on financial and ice cream matters. You straightened up before making your pronouncement.
Yeah, we've got enough.
You could now afford something at the shops. Just one thing, but that was infinitely better than none. Shiloh clapped his hands.
Yay!
The two of you dashed outside. The promise of sugar buoyed you onto your destination where, breathless but happy, you stared at the overwhelming number of options. You knew just what you wanted. But it wasn't just you who had contributed to the funds to get the treat. He seemed to notice your pause.
Aren't you getting a popsicle?
Shiloh asked, as though he was entirely separate from the decision, rather than someone with a stake in the outcome.
Do you mind?
Shiloh cocked his head to the side.
It was your idea. You should choose.
You tried to get something you both wanted anyway. It wasn't fair for you to be the only one to decide, when he had been a main factor in making this happen. Some of the money came directly from his backpack.
What do you like? All of them. They're so good.
You pressed further.
But what do you really like? Popsicles or ice cream? Which is your favorite? Oh, it's so hard to pick. I don't know.
Frustrated, you cut to the heart of the matter. You want me to choose?
Yeah.
And that was that. You got the dessert you wanted originally, and hoped Shiloh would actually like it too. Finally, the reward for all your hard work was in your hands. You sucked on the fruity popsicle you'd bought. The icy treat cooled you down perfectly, and the zesty flavor was refreshing. You held it out to Shiloh so he could take a turn. He shook his head.
You can finish it.
Aww. He didn't want any? After everything he did to help get it? That was weird. You tried to include Shiloh. Even if Shiloh said it was okay, every story you'd ever seen on TV or read in a book said that sharing was caring. You stood your ground, even as the treat started to trickle dangerously towards your fingers.
It's only fair that you have some. We both bought it. But you want it more than I do, and getting to play was a lot of fun already. So you can have it. That's more fair.
You held it out to him.
I want you to have some even more than I want to finish it, so eat your part.
Relenting, Shiloh took the treat and gave it a taste. His eyes lit up.
Thank you.
It's really good. Thank you.
You smiled, pleased with your good deed.
You picked the best one.
Did he mean that? Shiloh was always nice, no matter what happened. Even if he hated it, you knew he wouldn't say so. Maybe he thought it was gross, and that's the real reason he didn't want to take some. You had no idea. You studied him as he ate a little more. He had every appearance of enjoying himself. Still weird. The two of you began to head back home as he ate. You walked side by side on the shore in silence, but your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It was almost as if Shiloh didn't know how to say what he felt, or was too afraid to. You thought that was kind of sad. Not being able to talk to people isn't fun, and you didn't want to be the kind of person people were scared to tell their honest opinion to. You considered asking Shiloh about it, but if he couldn't give you an opinion on something like ice cream, then he wasn't going to open up about this. You hoped for the best. Maybe you were wrong, or if you were right, maybe he'd feel better about it soon. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experiences of spending the afternoon with just him. There had been good times and there had been confusing ones. You were positive of one thing at least. The treat was delicious, and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to your neighborhood. There you spotted two very familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your presence known to them, just as you saw the tears on Cove's face. Aww. You walked straight over, Shiloh at your heels. Once there, you carefully asked about what happened. Without a time machine, the only way you were going to find out was by asking the witnesses. Lizzie might have done something, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or even come to Cove's aid. You wanted to hear the story.
Cove, what happened? Gemstone, I got yelled at.
He took a deep, steadying breath.
Some grandparents got mad at me.
Aw.
Oh, sorry.
Lizzie jerked her head in the direction of a nearby house. Your heart sunk. You knew exactly what had happened. Every year, the same mean old couple rented out that condo for the summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have.
They're like that with everyone.
Even your mom struggled to find anything nice to say about them, but the elderly pair particularly took offense to kids. It didn't matter if they were really nice like Cove.
Yeah, Lizzie said.
Lizzie drew herself up at that. She looked pointedly in your direction.
I was helping. That's cool. Is there anything I can do?
No.
I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson.
There was a devilish glint in her eyes.
What? You could ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. It'll be great because they're so slow. They'll never catch you.
That's dumb. I don't want to go near them ever again.
You're just saying that because you're a chicken.
Cove glared, but didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you.
You're not a chicken, are you?
Yeah, cluck cluck. You'd rather just avoid them. You looked at the house. Behind those closed doors lurked two beings, rich in years but poor in patience. Maybe they deserved retaliation. Maybe they didn't. But that punishment wouldn't be coming from you. It was safer to stay far away from them, especially since Cove took their outbursts to heart.
I'm not doing it either. Another chicken for the coop. This is a hen house now. If we're chickens, you're a lizard, Lizzie.
She wagged her tongue at his face.
Still better than a bird brain. Chicken.
I don't like Lizzie. Lizzie the lizard. Yeah, cold-blooded. The condo door opened, revealing one of the two culprits. The old man's wizened face was set in a scowl, which was to say he looked exactly like he always did when you saw him. Maybe that was his normal face. Cruising down the main street. Come on the magic school bus. Ah, Lizzie. Lizzie the lizard from Magic School Bus. I totally forgot that's what their name was. Good call out. What are you kids doing loitering outside my house? Or maybe he was just always in a terrible mood.
Nothing.
Nothing. He repeated the word as if it was the greatest crime anyone could commit. Nothing good, more like. Get lost. It wasn't as if he owned the space outside the house, but Cove's eyes, still red from his earlier tears, were wide, and you thought it would be best to heed the old man's command. Lizzie took off, with Shiloh immediately trailing after her without so much as a glance back in your direction. So much for your friendship. You waved your arm at Cove, summoning him to follow you, and ran after Lizzie. You darn kids, get off my property! The old man's hollers propelled you all from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Only once you were safe did you notice the stitch in your chest and the ache of your legs. You flopped down, the blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who had taken the lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. The four of you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoy the feeling of the cool grass against your skin.
Cove.
Hey, Cove.
Cove lifted his head.
I told you there were mean grandparents around here.
Cove rolled his eyes, then decided this wasn't dismissive enough and rolled his whole body away from your sister. Yeah, Cove. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting to Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you knew you'd be second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. And it was fine. Shiloh could prefer Lizzie as much as he wanted to. There were other things to attend to anyway. You wriggled closer to Cove. He had calmed down for the most part, and was inspecting a flower, his fingers pinched against the stem, and tilted the white petals towards him.
That's a poppy.
Cove glanced at you in acknowledgement, then back to the flower.
And the type of poppies on this hill will have the name White Linen Poppy. Mom told me.
He quirked a smile.
That's funny.
He ran a finger around the edge of the petals.
It doesn't feel like cloth. You'd need a lot of them to make anything.
He nodded and released the delicate plant. Evaluation complete.
This is my favorite kind of flower, but I didn't know what it was called. Thanks.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Mine too. Roses, buttercups, snapdragons, hibiscus, peonies, sunflowers, tulips, orchids, all flowers. Type your own answer. Type in your favorite flower. Please don't capitalize or pluralize the word. Carnation. I like forget nots. A forget-me-not, huh?
Neat. Thanks.
Ah, pretty scene. You moved onto your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. The blanket of clouds reminded you of a thick throw you curled under on cold, rainy days. You wondered if the clouds would be as soft. That's the cold rainy. They lazily floated on by, splitting from each other, merging and morphing into new shapes. This art is so primpy, indeed. A dolphin! We were thinking about those just the other day. You saw a dolphin leaping through the sky. You nudged Cove and pointed to it.
Look, a dolphin!
Cove joined you in gazing skywards. I could chew it. This art is so primpy, I could chew it. Oh man, heck yeah. His hair does look like mint.
Yeah, I see it.
Chewable art is a very good compliment, okay? Yeah, I agree. If something's chewable, it's definitely good. I'd say your art is also chewable. Aw, thanks. Nom nom nom.
Really?
No.
But I like dolphins. Hey.
Oh.
Hey.
He chuckled at your reaction. Ooh. All the sun's light faded from the sky, and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The ocean, visible from the crest of the hill, beckoned with every sweep of the tide. No, don't go. Don't go to the ocean in the dark. This is a bad idea.
Let's go to the beach.
There was no argument from the other two. Shiloh was still Shiloh, and Cove would never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. You, were happy to do what the others wanted. The beach wouldn't necessarily have been where you chose to go next, but if that was what the others wanted, then you weren't going to spoil the fun. You stepped onto the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footsteps in the sand, too big to belong to any of you, were the only indication of how busy it had been only hours earlier. The four of you kicked shoes off and removed socks, and walked along the water's edge. The waves tickled your feet.
I wonder what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean with shampoo and everything.
That would be bad for the fish.
Jeez.
I didn't say anyone would do it. Jeez, you don't have to be so serious about everything.
You're the one who asked what would happen. That is what would happen. It'd hurt the fishes.
I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Me too. Bubble baths are luxurious.
You'd never heard Lizzie use that word before.
Mommy loves to have bubbles in her bath. She'll turn the lights off and have candles. I'm gonna do that next time. Hey, when's your mom coming to pick you up anyway? Not for a while. She's busy.
What about your dad? How come you never talk about him? Nobody does.
Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about?
You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed by waves. Even if Shiloh never seemed upset when this topic came up, it made you feel awkward just for having both of your moms.
It's okay. I'm like Lizzie and Gemstone. I don't have a dad. But I don't have two moms. I just have one. She's really great.
Oh, sorry. I only have one now, too. My mom isn't here. She's back home. It's just my dad with me.
Sorry.
Oh, I never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom is gone. Cove nodded. Oh, these poor babies. I thought that earlier. Something mentioned about them.
Even if they're all different, our parents are good in their own ways. Yeah.
Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and sodden sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, foot still outstretched from the kick. Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves to make a splash of his own. Shiloh scurried out of Cove's spray zone with a grin. He made a run for it. Aw. That's not quite what I meant. I thought they were gonna join in the fun. Alright. You were already too dirty and wet for comfort. Nothing that happened there would feel as good as getting dry. You got out of the water before anyone could catch you again. Perching on a rock, you scraped the wet sand from your legs as you watched the others. The sand came away in thick clumps at first, like clay, but where it had been thinner it had already dried and clung to your skin. Cove and Lizzie were relentless, while Shiloh mostly just dodged.
Ah!
Shiloh's brief exclamation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Aww. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming in from the rain, as you all hurried over to check on him. His hair was plastered to his head, and his soaked clothes clung. Aww. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see it.
That was crazy. Are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over.
You dumbo.
Way to go, Shiloh.
You offered him some help up. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. Lizzie was too busy snickering to notice, and held her hand out to Shiloh too. He reached over and took it. Slowly, he started to pull himself from the ground. Then he slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them. What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? You thought they must be low, but there's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose, then pretend it was an accident. Especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite, right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up again as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made the journey back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand in your wake. Damp clothes may have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung side to side as a cool breeze flowed past. Your moms were outside, chatting to Cove's dad.
We're back!
Your mom's faces fell as they took in the state you're all in, ranging from messy to soaked.
No.
Elizabeth, is that all you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. You certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home? Cold and filthy? Lizzie just silly like that. Yeah. Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Also, yes, Lizzie gets better later. Heck yeah. Character arc. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. You've been out making memories, bucko. I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast arm to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed that even that had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and had just as much fun. That might be right, kids. What can you do? Come on, Cove. Let's go get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast to have to be reset. Cove winced at the thought.
Okay.
That boy. Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sand was already transferring from Cove onto him, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got a reassuring pat on the back for his trouble.
Take
Aw.
care.
Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff. Night, Hoseki family, and Shiloh too. Resigned to his fate, Cove twisted his body in his dad's arms in order to turn around and wave goodbye. Smiling, you returned a tiny wave of your own.
Fine.
Well, we'd better do what we can to fix you guys up too. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs bathroom.
Ugh.
Yes, Mom.
Okay, Lizzie's mom.
Don't worry about stopping to wipe your feet on the mat this time. That won't do much good tonight. Sitting on an old beach towel your mommy had found, you waited in the hall. Until you were less sandy, you weren't allowed to go into your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. It felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packed away in his mom's car. Miss Fields had come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without a hat on for once. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to go in the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath as she had hoped. This was a no fun allowed clean-up session. At least, that's what she claimed. Not much longer and it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Alrighty. Ah, it's so cute. This game is so wonderful. I love it. But unfortunately, that is going to have to be where we leave it for today, because I do have work in a little bit. So thank you so much for joining. I hope that you enjoyed. You're very welcome. I hope you had a fun time. It was a great stream. Awesome. But yeah, we're gonna pick this up same place, same time next week, and possibly have more Baldur's Gate streams this week, maybe later this week. But thank you so much for joining. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Farewell.